So now we are going to get started on our closures. And now that I've got the camera closer to a table so you can see them a little easier, is a good thing. So we have a skirt hook, and this is the bar that goes with it. Okay. Notice how there's holes and whatnot. Sometimes there's a single hole, which is what the ones I think that you guys might have. Single holes kind of like that. But functions the same way. Ooh, that's a little bit shiny, isn't it? And then we also have the other kind of hook. So this is a skirt hook, all right? This is a regular hook. They come in different sizes. I can turn this on the side even. You can see it, okay? That's a regular hook. And this is a regular bar. This also comes with loop. You might have seen those. You usually see those on the top of zippers of garments to help hold the zipper up. So if you see one of those on the top of a zipper, make sure to hook that zipper first, hook that, and then zip your zipper. And then we also have snap. This snap is snapped together. So if you look at it from the side, you can kind of tell. So you can just pop that open. Bow! We've got the male side. And then if you look, and the male side, as I talked about before, it's flat on the back. Okay? See if it'll focus for me. Focus. See, it's flat on the back. You can see letters on it, right? And obvious reasons, it's the male side. And then the female side, you always know the female side has to have the part where the button hooks in. So the dip part, the valley part should be facing up. If you flip this over, if you take yours and you flip it over, and look on the back, you see that little spring in the middle, that little zigzag? That's the spring. We don't want to see that. So if you start sewing, you realize you see that, you've got your female snap upside down. It's not going to do you a bit of good to try and snap the male side into the female side. It doesn't work for these. So you got to make sure you flip that over. Make sure it's the right way. Okay? All right? And then the other one thing you have is a button. Okay? So some of your buttons might be a little bit different. All of them are 4-hole buttons. You want to make sure you do not put your button upside down. That's aggravating. So some of them are flat on one side, has a little divot on the other. That divot, if you have a little divot on the top, that is the top. It does not go this way. It will not help you when you get ready to do your thread shank. Please pay attention to your button. It likes to face the correct way. If it is upside down, you will lose points. Okay, so that's the pieces that you have for your closures. All right, so we have all of these. There are the male sides, and except for the button, the male sides and the two hooks. This hook actually goes this way, and the hooks. I mean the bars, along with the female side of the snap. Okay. And we will talk about the snap a little bit. So to make sure I don't lose it, I'm going to take my snap halves, and I'm going to snap those back together for now. Just because that would suck if you lost half of that, because I guess you'll lose half your points for that part. That would not be a good thing. So we're going to slide this out of the way, and I want you to take a look for the moment. Oop, that's my needle. I'll put my needle over where it belongs. You've got your two pieces, right? They're both this rectangular shape. All right. Now you remember how I said you should put closure on the top of both sides, and we have this line drawn here. Ta-da! The line is drawn. Now we also have. So I'm making sure my closures label lines up with my closures label. That's why I had you do it, to remind you which way it's supposed to go. Okay. And your name match up with your name, okay? That way you don't accidentally end up trying to do something silly that I've seen people do by getting it backwards. See, those don't line up. That would be incorrect. It will not lay down facing fold like this. This defeats our purpose. We want it to imitate the front of a garment, okay? So this is going to be the side that will end up getting your bars. You're welcome. You will thank me better later. This will be the side that gets your hooks, okay? Note how I have this so that this is down, okay? This will get all the bars. Then I have the fold side is on this side. I have the fold side on the other side. And the reason we have this line is so that we can put this one on top of the other one so that it looks like that, okay? If it makes it easier for you, you are more than welcome to put a T for top and a B, oops, a B for bottom and a T for top. Sorry, I got that backwards, okay? So that you remember when you're looking at this, that this goes here, okay? Ta-da! Okay, so we need to know how are we going to line these up, okay? So we are going to take the top side and we're going to flip it over. Okay, now, mind you, I could mark them and then lay them over the top, but then that makes it hard to see our labels, and I want to see your labels. So we're going to flip this way, all right? Put this one off to the side, okay? We are not going to use our button yet, so I'm going to set those all over together. And I'm going to take all of my bars, I'm going to put them over there. So, first thing I'm going to want to do, you're going to want to have your pencil handy. You saw me using that little red marker. That is actually a heat-sensitive pen. It's an it's called a friction pen. So when you apply heat to it, it disappears. I'm not using that right now. So I want to make sure my snap is going to be, okay, so the way that this is going to happen is it's going to line up hook on either end, and your snap is going to be in the middle. Okay, you see that? Woo! See, I have a grid on mine, in my possession, but I'm lining this up in the middle, right? So how are we going to take and know exactly where that is? What you're going to do first is you're going to fold your top edge down. Keep it straight. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it's okay. We're going to kind of push that. Okay? When we open it, I'm going to mark a line right here. Okay? That's your center. Okay? Yay, center! Yay, that's exciting. Okay, now for here, I'm going to kind of look at it where it's going to be nice. And you're looking at, I want you to see the placement. See how I'm setting that in there? You want this to be about 1/8 of an inch in. So if it helps you to remember, you can, until you get really good at eyeballing it, you can kind of do that. Okay, so this will line up to there. You don't want to get any closer because then you're going to be, this is going to peek out, this will end up showing, so we don't want that. All right? So you're going to want to put that there. Okay? Some people sometimes will do like a dot, but I don't really see the point of that. But if you have a single line, you know, your two ends to make sure that they're even, so that when you start to sew, if you realize that that's going off kilter, you can straighten that out to help it be straight. Okay? So that's a good position. Notice how I'm not all the way to the cut edge either. All right? That's a good, 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch away from there. This one's about 1/8 of an inch. Okay? We're just barely hiding it. If you put it back here, that is incorrect. You will lose points. It goes right about there. Okay? So then you look at this other one. I'll slide this down a little bit. Look at this other one. And you're going to want to put that, same kind of an idea. See how I'm still spacing it out? Okay? Still spacing. I'm going to rotate this so you can see it easier. Okay? So I'm going to put this here. I'm looking at how far away it is from the edge. So I'm not going to go any, you want it to be the same. If you need to put this back over here so you can have a visual, try to get them even. You can just put your finger down. You want to make sure that this is about the same distance. You want to make sure it's lined up and straight, because crooked sucks. Crooked loses points. Okay? So then you can mark it. Oops. Mark it here. Make sure it's nice and lined up. And then just to make sure it doesn't get torqued, you can do that. Okay? So that when I put this on here, that is going to be straight. Okay? That's straight. Yeah. Okay? And I'm looking at the hook itself. Looking at the hook itself. Okay? Then we have one more thing left, and that is our lovely snap, right? So take it apart. It's a little easier if we just go ahead and mark everything. So I'm going to lay this here. And you see where this line is? I'm going to line it so that it goes kind of in the middle. Once again, the edge should be the same distance as your hooks are. Okay, so if this is my top edge, oops, we could do that. I like to do it this way because then I can eyeball it. Okay, so then I know it's right here, and when I sew it on, I'm going to sew it on right there. Okay, if I were to, most of the time you'll get a mark that's like just a cross here, so you know that it lines up. But I'm trying to make it so that you have it, so you know that dot will line up with the middle. Okay, that's how that's going to line up. We are going to sew our skirt hook on first because it's easier. Or do we want to do our skirt first? You know what? We'll do our snap first because it's a little less difficult to hold in place. So you're going to want to get thread. Ta-da! Thread. And you're going to want 2 Barbie doll lengths. So 1, I think mine has 2. 1 and 2, okay? So what you're going to want to do, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to want to take, there's my thing, take your needle, needle, yay, needle. You're going to want to thread that needle. Remember how I said we use a single, double, or quadruple? For this particular time, for us to practice, we are using double thread, okay? You can do quadruple, but you want to be able to learn how to control your threads first, okay? Oops, wrong thing, I got a little ahead. Okay, so I've put that in there, and then I just pull it, and then I'm holding onto my metal piece so that I don't accidentally do an oopsie, which would suck, okay? So now, I've got my needle threaded. I put my needle down. I'm going to take the end of the thread, end of one, I'm going to take the end of the other, and I'm going to match them up. Okay? Matching them up. If you do this with single thread, it is wrong, and you will get points taken off. You must use double thread. Okay? I've caught a pin. Okay? So I'm pushing it, I'm holding on to one end, and then I'm putting my needle all the way to the other end. So now you're just going to tie your knot like we typically do. Okay? I like to do mine around my finger because it's quicker. I've been doing it for ages. Reach above and pull. So I've still got my tail. I don't want a tail. This is kind of a big knot. If you find out that your knot's a little too big, you can clip it. But you're learning, so don't stress about it. It's okay. Oops. Like I said, even with snaps, you're probably going to want to cut them off and try again. You will, once you've sent in your picture and you get to a certain point, you will be taking your snaps off anyway because they will be used on your bag. Okay, so we are going to take this because it's a nice central location, right? We're going to line this up so I have the dot is over the line and I am lining it up to there. Okay, and then I just go ahead and hold it. Right. So your stitches, all of your stitches. Okay, I'm going to write this down for you because I want to make sure you get it. Ooh, wait, there's a place that we can. Where could it be? Could it be in our notations? Okay, so since we're doing a snap, here we go. we're going to take and go over this just a little bit so you can see this, okay? So as you can take, that's the male, that's the female side. We're working on the male side first, okay? So as you can see, that's the travel stitch. But every single stitch is basically a prick stitch that's laid in right next to each other. That's the best way. The thing you want to remember, and I'm going to write that kind of off to the side a little bit. For each snap, you need to remember that to sew on a snap, it goes with the first stitch is the prick stitch. That means that prick stitch goes through all layers. All layers. Okay? And this is for the male side. Make sure I've got it. Yes, this is for the male side. So just know when they're talking about the positive half, they're talking about the male side. Okay? Then your next number stitches, however many, because it depends on what size the snap is. Our snap is not terribly big. It's probably going to take about 4 stitches to go all the way across. But the remaining of those is also a prick stitch, meaning that your stitch is always going to go, stitch out to in. See, I can't write today. Out to in. So every single stitch, see how it goes from outside? When it did these ones, it went from outside and up through the middle. Outside, up through the middle. And you'll see it in just a minute when I sew. But the second prick stitches, the prick stitches that follow, only goes through one layer. Okay? One layer. And then when we get to the end, we are going to make a knot. A very small, simple knot, similar to the wrap it twice. Okay? And then after we've tied the knot, the next thing we do is our travel stitches. Is a travel stitch. Okay? That means you're going from one hole over to the next hole. Alright? This one likes to work going in that direction. I tend to work going in the other. I don't care which way you go, whatever makes you feel good. So your travel stitch has to go between the layers. Alright? Your stitches also, notice on here, the stitches aren't out here. You don't have a stitch way out here. The stitch is right beside the snap itself. Think of it as the fold like we did for our hem stitches. That stitch see where it's going in? Stays close to the snap. If you got it sitting out here, it's not going to do a darn thing. It's just going to move around and then it's going to rip out and you're going to have to sew that sucker on again. So let's save ourselves the grief and keep our stitches close. Alright? Alright, so we are going to, now I'm going to show you how to do it. We're going to knock this out. Oops, I almost lost my snap. That would have been bad. Oh my god. So I've got my snap. So just so you remember, the first one is a prick stitch. Goes through all layers. So when I say all layers, it goes through both layers. See? Prick stitch. That's the first stitch. You like that. The second one will also be a prick stitch, but it's only going to go through one layer. Okay? So nothing. You see nothing. The reason is because this is a top. It's going to go down. Anything you put on this side that goes through all layers is going to be seen. And I'm stuck to my thread in the wrong way. Okay? And then you're going to tie a knot at the end of the hole. I kind of like to say the prick stitch is like the capital letter of a sentence. Each of these phases, each of these holes is like a phase, right? Or a phrase. So for each phrase or sentence, you're going to start with a prick stitch. That's your capital letter. You're going to end with a period. That would be the knot. Okay? And then you have to travel. Now travel is kind of like the space between sentences in a paragraph. So it's a paragraph. I told you I have some weird associations, but it helps me. Okay? You'll think of something. Alright, so we're going to put this right here. Alright? Now, Some people will kind of hide it underneath. That's not a big deal. Depends on how big your knot is. Sometimes I will just go ahead and kind of hide my knot a little bit underneath my thing, but I don't really care for this purpose. For this purpose, I just want to see that you understand the concept. So I also like having my finger behind here because then I can feel when it goes all the way through. So it kind of sends me a red flag. So I'm doing my first stitch is a prick stitch. Okay? If you want to hide your knot, because you are a perfectionist like me, you can. You can just run it underneath like that, and it will tuck it away. And I am only going through the one layer for that one, because it's just the purpose is just to hide my knot. Okay? To get me set. See how big my knot is? That's what I was saying. So we want to make sure it stays lined up. So after each stitch, make sure you realign yourself, all right? So here we go. First stitch. See, it's kind of confusing. I don't know how well that's going to work. Okay. First stitch is what? Prick stitch. All the way through all layers. Pricks an outer to the inner hole. Okay? Pull. When you get close, pause just a moment to make sure that these are even. And if not, then you straighten it out. Okay? And run it down the line of the thread and it will even it out so your next stitch won't be bad. Okay? So that was my first one. That was my prick stitch. Okay? If I look on the back, you're going to see a little prick. Alright? Next stitch, the next series of stitches is going to be prick stitches as well, but going through only one layer. Alright? So I'm making sure I have this all lined back up because it shifted a little bit. Okay? So now I'm going to go through just one layer. Okay? You can see. I'm going to pull my light down a little bit more. There we go. Alright, so prick stitch through one layer, and because my finger is there, I can tell. Please note how close I am making my stitch. Alright? It's not way over here. I try to lay my stitches one right next to the other. It looks neater. Oops. Alright, so I'm making sure that I'm not going to have any problems of tension. See? Look at that. Nice and snug, but not so snug that it causes issues, alright? So I'm making sure it's realigned where it needs to be. And I'm going to stitch it again. One right next to the other. Now you see how it's got a little bit of a loop? Just going to tug a little bit. And run it back down the thread to my needle. So then I have to pick up my needle again anyway. Okay, looks like I've only got a couple more stitches left. Okay, I'm going through that. See? I'm going through that. And the stitches are one right next to the other. Okay, so now I've come to the end here. So I'm going, now, my needle was perpendicular to the fold, so to speak, because it's like whip stitch. I'm going to rotate it so that my knot is running right next to it. Okay, do you see that? See? So I've got these wonderful stitches happening. Look how pretty that is. Okay, let me hold it back. So I'm going to pull this, and I'm going to go ahead and pull it because I don't want there to be that crazy loop thing happening. I like to keep everything tight and neat. Neat and tidy. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take and do another little prick stitch. Oops. Alright, another prick stitch. You're going to wrap it twice. Once, twice. Pull. Okay. So you see you've got that little knot? It should be fairly close. See, once I put it back in place. Right next to it. See? You can see that knot right there? Yeah? Maybe? A little bit? I'll rotate it a little bit. See? That knot is right next to that snap, all right? And that's so that we can make it more secure, all right? It won't fall off. So then we're going to go right next to our knot, and we're going to run between the two layers. You're going to want to hold it so it's got a little bit of tension to find it easier. Or you can go underneath your knot, which might make it a little more difficult. But being stubborn, I don't think it wants to cooperate. So I'm running underneath. Now I am going to make sure that I see how it's kind of hard to get it to come up the way I want. I'm actually going to go between. So when I do this, let me get it to focus first. Sorry guys. So when I do this, okay, I'm going in next to my knot. I'm coming out just below where that hole is, you see? But I'm between the layers. It makes it a little easier to get it through there. So go ahead and pull your needle. Check and make sure you didn't travel. So you can kind of see where my travel thread is between layers. It's not on the outside. Okay, making sure everything's straight. Now, I'm going to go ahead, because it's between layers, come up through that hole. Okay, so now you're ready to start your next section. Okay, so turning this around a little bit. What is your first stitch? That's right, your first stitch is the brick stitch. Okay, so we've got the prick stitch. Making sure it's lined up. Prick stitch goes through, the first one does, like a capital letter, through all your layers. Okay, outside to in, make sure your thread is on this side. Okay. I'm sorry, it keeps on focusing. I don't know why it's doing that. I'm giving it too much to think about. Come on, focus. Not focus. Can I make it focus? There we go. Not holding it properly. That's probably what it's doing. Okay, so I pull that through. Make sure it's not going to loop up or do something weird. Okay, so that one went through all layers. See? You see my travel stitch? See my... Alright. So now you're going to notice that it's staying pretty easily without me having to hold it so hard. Some people like to put pins through it. I'm not a fan of that just because I find that they get in my way and I stab myself. But if that becomes a thing that you like, then that's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. I know some people also like to put them through the center because there's that hole. Once again, I just find that they get in my way. So, I'm not going through any more than one layer. I'm stitching right next to where the last one was. You can also stick your finger in here to make sure everything's all nice and straight. But, okay. Prick stitch through one layer. And you want to check it before you pull your thread. I did not, but I could tell I didn't go through. You want to do that before you pull your thread because you're not going to be able to undo it. So it's better to check while your needle is there because your needle is going to basically telling your thread where to go. So okay. So that's, see how it wants to bubble? You see that? How that loop is happening? See how it's doing that? It tells me it's a little bit uneven. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick my finger in it, and if you pull it, it straightens it out. Okay? But I'm still holding my I'm holding just my needle. I'm not holding the thread, the needle, and I just kind of stick my finger. It kind of, sorts them all out a little bit. If it doesn't still, you can still grab it from here. Pull it all so it's nice and tidy. Don't pull your thread too tight though. And just run it back down to the point, or to the needle. And again. Okay, so now I'm at the end. You see how I've got like just a little bit of space. Look at that. A little bit of space. So now I'm going to go ahead and put my needle in parallel, little prick stitch. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and pull that so that I'm not fighting with this being in the hole so much. It's going to be on that side. So I don't have to worry about accidentally messing something up. Oh. See, straighten out the mess before it becomes a problem. Right, so there's that nice and neat. So far so good. All right, so now we're going to tie our knot again. So right where it just came out, same little spot, you're going to go prick stitch, grab it once, oops, twice, pinch, okay, and then pull your needle. Straighten it out before it gets too far, especially with a knot. Okay, see? Oop. Then we're going to tuck it under once, okay. And then we're going to come back under it, feed it through to the next area. Uh-oh. It does not want to cooperate with me today, apparently. So you can kind of see where it's going to come out at. Oh, sorry. It's going to come out at. I'm going to see where it's going to come out at. All right. This one a little bit. Okay. So once again, my traveling thread is between the layers. Between the layers. So I can go to my third hole. Then I'm going to come up. Come up through the hole. You see, it's right underneath that hole, so it won't make it do weird things. Okay. Now notice how it's kind of come off a little bit, so I'm going to push that a little, just a smidge, just so it stays centered. First stitch is a prick stitch through all layers. Okay. Hopefully I didn't make that one too big. Not too bad. It's a little big, but it'll be okay. I would actually try to catch less than that, but it's fine. This thread would match your fabric, outer fabric anyway, so hopefully it would just blend away. All right. So since you have evening it out, there we go. And pull, tugging on that thread, running that thread so it's even back to my needle. Okay. Always checking. Let's see if I have one more. And then I'm going to go next to it, and go parallel, pull it, and we go prick stitch underneath where it just came out. We go once, twice, and pull it. Oops. Oops, see how I got all messed up a little bit? It's okay. It's got the knot right here, see? Not a big deal. A lot of times if you stick your needle right in between, if both of them are caught, it will come out. So usually, see how that did that? I tightened up and pull my needle out. Usually pop it. It's just looped. Okay, so then that's finishing our knot. That knot's not as tight as I would like, but that's okay. Then I'm going to prick stitch it. I pulled on a little too hard. Okay, so there we go. Alright. And then come back. And run it through. Between the layers. See, it looks like it would go through, but trust me, that is not a war you want to fight with this thing. So just come out underneath it, underneath the actual snap. Sometimes you get lucky if it's a small enough one. And see, I have a little bit of, I caught a little bit when I did the knot, and that's okay. As long as it's not a big, oops. All right, so we're going to pull that. Travel stitches are between. Okay, so there's that. Oop, up, uh-oh. Up and through. Okay, so I'm also checking my tension on the back. Everything still looks pretty relaxed. So that means I haven't tugged anything too much, which is good. So, prick stitch through all layers. Check how big that was. Yeah, I should have checked it before. Yeah, it looks kind of cool because it's got almost like a star shape to it. Okay, and then I'm going to do this one rather quickly. Going just through one layer. That one kind of jacked up a little bit, so we're going to pull. See how that loop is there? It's got a little bit of a loop happening. Not good. So, whoop. Give it a little tug. There we go. That straightened it out. See what I mean? Catch it before it becomes a hot mess. Now I have one more stitch. And then we're going to tight and from the outside. There we go. Nice, pretty knot. Once, twice. And go under it twice. Just to make sure. First time to make it stop. Or second to make a knot. And then we're going to cut close to the knot so that it looks like that. Okay? So you can clearly see that I have a knot in each hole. You can clearly see that all of my stitches are close to my closure. Okay? I don't have any thread loops. Everything stayed nice and tight. I don't have anything pulling weird. If I flip this over, you will see that I have two little prick stitches. You can see my travel stitches are between layers because I can look like this. If I see, I don't want to see any travel stitches where they don't belong. Okay, and my knots are nice and neat. But I have little prick stitches. I don't have big long stitches. That usually tells me your travel thread was not where it's supposed to. Sometimes we even get them in between here. But okay, so that's the male side. Ta-da! Male side. All right, of the snap. Now, woohoo! We are going to go ahead and pause here. I can actually show you. So we're going to line this up like this. Okay, so this this is going to line up like this. Okay? Woohoo! All right. So what we want to do, oh, ouch. Okay, so what you're gonna want to do is to make it a little easier on you, fold this one in half. Do a little crease, kind of like what we did in the first one. Bam! Right? And to make sure we don't lose it, okay. Now what we're paying attention to is this line. So there are a couple of really cool ways that you can deal with this. One of my favorites, you probably don't have a piece of chalk at home, so, but I'll show it to you anyway. Oh my knee. So if you're in the costume shop, you need to mark where this goes and you have the male side in, take this, and you're going to take this chalk. Chalk, not wax. It's going to work as nice. So you're going to rub it on the top of your snap. Okay, so you see that? Got a little bit of chalk on there that I put. Now you're going to line this up so it's nice and lined up and just covers the actual line. So make sure it's all nice and neat, and then you're just going to push. And that's about where your snap's going to be. Probably going to shift a little bit, which is okay. All right. The good thing is that your snap is the first one you're putting on, so it's actually going to sit probably closer to that. All right, centered. That's why I have you put the line on there. So you're welcome. I know I'm a giver. Can't help it. All right, so make sure you have your thread ready. Okay, so but yeah, so that's how you would mark it. See how it was a little bit off? That causes me to worry a little bit. But yeah, here, lining that up. I probably just tilted it. And it's all rubbed off. Okay, so that's about it. But it's kind of hard to see that dot, so it would end up putting it that way. That's a little too close. It's more centered. That's why this is marked at a 5/8. Okay, so we're going to go with that because it's easier. Ta-da! The other way is that sometimes you're told to lay this here. You can take a pin and mark it through the center that way. Okay, so the actual center, according to my pin, is right there. Oops. It's right here. It's hard to see. I don't know what's going on with this. It just doesn't want to focus. It's got attitude. Focus on my fingers. Nope. There it goes. A little bit better. Okay. So there's that. Ah! It's making me mad. If I do this, there we go. Okay, because you kind of see where it would actually end up. So you can mark that as well. But if you look, it basically is like the center right there. Okay, so what we're going to do, I'll move that out of the way, is we're going to make sure we have our knot. So the piece that we were just working with, you can use it with a knot. And I'm going to go through this one a little bit faster because we don't have to worry about the prick stitches hiding for all of them. Same exact method. First stitch is the prick stitch going through all layers. Then the next ones that follow all the way around can go through one layer if you want. And then the last, before you move on to the next hole, that is has a knot, okay? So here we go. I'm gonna go prick stitch. Now the reason we don't have to worry about the female side in such a way is because, and make sure the spring is down, by the way, you know, that the valley is on top, is because the female side is the side that stays hidden. You kind of want to think about, it sounds awful, men like it on top, basic missionary, I know. So that is, it helps you to remember what order. Okay, so we're going to pull that, and then we're going to do the next one. And we're going to go just a little bit faster. So this one, as you can tell, it wants to buckle up. That's not cool, man. So make sure you're paying attention to that thread. Don't just try to be a Speedy Gonzales and not pay attention to your craftsmanship. You will sew a lot of these on, so if you learn how to sew them on right the first time, it won't be such a pain in the patootie, okay? Let's see how it's kind of twisting a little bit, so this is why it's important to make sure things are lined up. There we go. There we go. So now I'm going to do one more. So definitely very important to check. See, I've got a loop. And if you can't get it to just shift off, you're going to want to just tug one side or the other so that they even out. But watch it because it's really easy to, like, if you accidentally end up twisting it too much, it will create bubbles. See, I've got not so many bubbles right now, which is good. Okay, so make sure that it is sitting where it's supposed to and it's mostly relaxed. And then you're going to tie your knot. Into a knot. Perk stitch parallel. See how it's trying to bubble? That's just not nice. That's not nice at all. Let's put this here. Rock it once, twice. Pull it through. Oh, no, it's trying to do it again. Oh, it's got some attitude. I might have to get some beeswax. Calm it down. So excited. See what I mean? You gotta deal with that knot before it becomes a mess. I don't know what's going on. It got mad at me. Sometimes you just gotta play with it. Okay, so let's see what's going on. Here we go. Okay. So what's going on? I'm trying to straighten it out now. We gotta back it up. There we go. That's better. It's a little bit happier. Okay, and then I'm gonna stitch right underneath. Okay. Once again, any travel threads happens between the layers, not between the snap and the fabric. Between the layers, okay? So, travel thread between the layers. And this one, because it's just small enough, you can actually possibly go through the hole. See? Between the layers, okay? So I'm going to rotate. Correct stitch through both layers, or at least the first one, for sure, for sure. Oops, I pulled something. It's okay. So I'm going to start going a little bit faster in the interest of time, and you are welcome to review it as many times as you need to. Look at that. Isn't that kind of cool? Make sure you don't twist it. Make sure it's laying nice. Make sure you're controlling that thread, not letting it control you. Like I said, I've been doing this for a long time. A lot of it is my muscles know how to do it. Okay? See, and it's still showing a dimple. That's normal because the dimple comes down. The belly button comes down quite a bit. So then we're going to go, oh, I got another stitch. See how I got a little far away? I got a little bit in a hurry. So be careful of that. Alright? But not bad. So I'm right next to it. Parallel. Snap. Pull it through. Preparation. Tie the knot. Once, twice. And then come under it. Once. Pull that straight. There we go. And travel on to the next hole. Okay? So making sure I'm not twisting things, make sure it's laying nice, make sure it's lined up. You want to make sure it's lined up, because sometimes, there have been times when, especially when I'm not really paying attention, I'll get 2 of them done and realize that's not going to lay the way it's supposed to, and I'll have to rip it out. So that's okay, that's normal. See, I've got two sections of prick stitches. Okay, so here we go. Oops. Okay, so prick stitches. All the way through. See, that barely caught it. So I'm going to redo that one more time, just to make sure it's going to sit where it's supposed to. Prick stitch. Uh-oh. Not good. Okay, let's redo. Pull on it a little bit. There it goes. See, it's just trying to be a hot mess. Make sure my loopies are all settled. Okay, so now we're going to move on. Boop. Laying my stitches in, one right next to the other. Make sure that stitch is going in next to the snap, outside the end, not under it. Okay. Oops, another loop happening. I don't want no stinking loops. Okay, that's the last one for this horse. Make sure it's not too tight. Okay, make sure I've only done a couple of stitches yet. Alright, so now I gotta do my knot. I'm going parallel to the edge. And pull. I'm going to do quick stitch. And wrap once, twice, and pull. Okay. And then we're going to go underneath it once. Travel to the next hole. See? Nice and neat. Always check it. Because you've tied a knot, so even if you screwed up this one, you can cut that out, you know, cut it down to a certain part and then pull it back and finish your knot off fully if you needed to, and start there again. Okay, so travel stitch into the next hole. Ooh, no, I didn't see it. That's good. And then quick stitch. Uh-oh. Wah wah. Stupid loops. They just want, it wants to be loopy. You do not have Thread Heaven with me at this moment, so we're not going to worry about it. So when you have this edge, and it gets to be a pain in the bootootie, it's my nice way of saying it, something else. Put tension on it like I've taught you, and it will help to keep it from buckling. Okay? So make sure you can run your nail across that so that it ends up where it should be and not this big hot mess of a bubble. Okay, so oops. Okay. Oops. I'm going to put a little part over. So I'm checking my stitches every time I stitch, especially when I'm learning, because muscle memory is a thing, and it can be your friend if you get it. Okay, so I'm at the end. So now we gotta tie our knot. Boop. So we're going to pull it first after we do our parallel prick stitch, the first one. Look how neat that is, right? Then we're gonna go prick stitch, And we're going to grab it, and we're going to wrap it. 1, 2, oops, I got a little excited. Let me try that again. Let me try that again. Once, twice, and then pull. Okay, so look. Nice and neat. Nice and neat. And then we're going to stitch underneath twice. Once to make it stop. Twice to make it not. Okay? Boop, 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 boop. I like sound effects. Sometimes sound effects makes life a little bit better. So there's nothing wrong with it. Sometimes you gotta say it to yourself because not everybody wants to hear that. So just be aware. And that is our other snap. So the other half of our snap, that's the female side. Okay, so that is your snap. See how nice and neat that is? Back stitch, pretty nice and clean, even on the back. See, I get into habit and then I stay there. Now, I'm gonna lay this. This is the bottom. Remember, we got the B on here. Now, T for the top, and I'm gonna snap it on top, and I'm gonna check it. So I'm gonna rotate this around so I can see that line. Look at that! It's lined up nicely, okay? It covers up the line just a little bit, which is okay. All right, ta-da! All right, so now we're gonna move on to one of our hooks. All right, see you in a minute.